Two brothers, same family, same house, same struggles growing up. By the time they both hit their 70s, one of them couldn't remember his grandchildren's names. The other was still doing crossword puzzles, driving himself to appointments, and cracking jokes at the dinner table. Same genes, same upbringing, completely different brains. The only difference their family could point to, one brother spent his whole life complaining about everything. The other one simply didn't. Doctors call stories like this outliers. I call them clues. And today on Senior Logic, we are following that clue all the way down into the science of what complaining actually does inside the human brain. And more importantly, what begins to happen the moment you stop. Because what researchers have found is not just interesting, it is life-changing. And if you watch this video to the end, you will never think about a simple grumble the same way again. Let's begin with a question that sounds almost philosophical, but is actually pure biology. What does your brain do with a complaint? Here's the answer, and it might genuinely shock you. Your brain treats every complaint like an emergency broadcast. The moment a complaint forms, whether you say it out loud or just think it quietly, your brain's threat detection system switches on. An ancient structure deep inside your brain called the amygdala lights up like a fire alarm. It doesn't pause to ask whether this is a real emergency or just frustration about a slow internet connection. It simply reacts every single time. And that reaction triggers a cascade. Stress hormones pour out, your heart beats a little faster, your muscles tighten slightly, your digestive system slows down, your immune response dips. And flooding through all of it, cortisol, the stress hormone that in small doses keeps you sharp, but in constant doses becomes one of the most destructive chemicals your brain can be soaked in. Now, here is the part that keeps neuroscientists up at night. Every time this happens, every time that alarm fires and cortisol washes through your brain, it leaves a mark. Not a visible scar, something more subtle. It weakens the connections between neurons. It slowly degrades the tissue in your hippocampus. It makes the next complaint easier to have, faster to trigger, more automatic. Your brain is literally being trained, and most people have no idea they're the ones holding the training manual. Here's a vivid way to picture it. Imagine your brain as fresh white snow on a hillside. The first time a thought travels down that hill, it leaves a faint track. The second time, the track gets a little deeper. By the 100th time, by the 1000th time, there is a deep frozen groove carved into that hillside. And now, every new thought just naturally falls into that groove without any effort at all. Complaining for years doesn't just make you a negative person. It carves permanent grooves of negativity into the physical structure of your brain. But now, right now, this is the moment the story changes. What happens when you stop? I want you to imagine a man named David, 68 years old, retired engineer. By his own admission, he had spent most of his adult life as what his wife lovingly called a world-class grumbler. The news was always terrible, his health was always disappointing, the neighbors were always too loud, his adult children never called enough. Nothing was ever quite right. Then, one afternoon, his youngest daughter sat across from him at the kitchen table and slid a piece of paper toward him. It was a printed article about a study on complaining and brain aging. She didn't say a word, just watched him read it. David sat quietly for a long moment. Then he said, "I've been poisoning myself?" He decided that day to try 1 month without deliberate complaining. No dramatic announcements, no family meetings, just a private decision. He kept a small notebook. Every time he caught a complaint forming, he wrote it down instead of saying it. And next to it, he wrote one alternative thought. Not a fake positive, just a realistic alternative. Within 2 weeks, his wife noticed he was sleeping better. Within 3 weeks, he told her the mental noise, that constant low hum of dissatisfaction he'd carried for decades, had gotten quieter. By the end of the month, he said something that surprised even him. "I think I've been choosing to suffer." What David experienced has now been documented in laboratories around the world. When people consciously interrupt the complaining cycle, the brain's stress response begins to settle almost immediately. Cortisol levels measurably drop within days. And as the cortisol retreats, something extraordinary rushes in to fill the space. Clarity, calm, connection. The prefrontal cortex, the front part of your brain responsible for wise decisions, emotional balance, and genuine empathy, begins to activate more readily. It's as if the alarm system had been so loud for so long that nobody could think straight. And when it finally goes quiet, the brain's highest functions come back online. Now think about what that means for your daily life. It means you start noticing solutions you were too stressed to see before. It means the people around you feel the shift and lean in closer instead of pulling away. It means your body, no longer constantly bracing for a threat that was never really there, can finally rest and repair. And here is something that should matter deeply to everyone watching this channel. Research on aging specifically has found that older adults who practice low complaint, high gratitude thinking show slower rates of memory decline. They maintain sharper processing speed. They demonstrate stronger neural connectivity. And in some studies, their brains under imaging literally look younger than their biological age. Margaret from a different study. David from this story. 10 million people who tried a purple bracelet challenge. Ordinary people who made one extraordinary decision. They didn't get new brains. They rebuilt the ones they had. So I want to give you something practical before we close. 3 things. Simple, doable, backed by science. 1. The morning guard. For the first 10 minutes of your day, before the news, before the phone, before any conversation, protect your brain. Sit quietly. Think of 2 things you're genuinely not unhappy about right now. Train the first thoughts of the day to run on a different track. 2. The complaint audit. Just for one day, keep an informal count. Every time you complain out loud, tap your finger on your knee. Just notice. Awareness alone has been shown in behavioral studies to reduce the frequency of a habit by up to 40%. You cannot change what you refuse to see. 3. The swap habit. Every complaint that you genuinely cannot let go of, swap it for a question. Not fake positivity, a real question. What would actually help this situation? What small part of this is actually manageable? Questions move the brain forward. Complaints keep it spinning in place. These aren't feel-good suggestions. These are neurological interventions. Small, daily, compounding over time into a fundamentally different quality of mind. And I'll leave you with this final thought. Those 2 brothers at the beginning of this story. Same blood, same start in life, but by their 70s, they were living in completely different mental worlds. One trapped in a brain that had slowly closed in around him. The other, still open, still curious, still sharp. The brother with the sharper mind was asked once if he ever felt like complaining. He laughed and said, "Of course I do. Every single day something goes wrong. But I figured out a long time ago that complaining is just borrowing trouble you haven't even been sent yet. Borrowing trouble you haven't even been sent yet." Your brain hears everything you tell it. It builds itself around the stories you repeat, and it is never, ever too late to start telling it a better one. This is Senior Logic. If this hit home today, share it with someone you care about. Their brain will thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.